And we're live. Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to this live stream, which is, as you can see, titled Andy and Karl Drink Beer and Play with Toy Guns. Now, this is actually clickbait. It's a misleading title because I've got a White Claw and Karl.
I've got the old Norris Coke Zero right here.
Excellent. So cheers, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas, and unless you don't celebrate it, of course, in which case you're definitely going to go to hell. So here's what we're going to do, everybody. We are going to go ahead.
We just got $5 from a hot creamy fart.
Hot creamy fart just sent us $5. Firm, Karl. United, let us be, rallying round our liberty. As a band of brothers joined, peace and safety we shall find. That's got to be. Forgive my ignorance, but that's got to be Battle Hymn of the Republic, one of the obscure verses, right? Thank you.
I think it's from the Sagas of the Michiganders. I
think it might be, actually. Yes. Classic Norse saga, classic. We can hide that.
Thank you, Hot Creamy Fart.
Hot Creamy Fart, your patriotism is truly appreciated. So here's what we're going to do, everybody. We are going to start off reviewing some toy guns and real firearms.
Mm-hmm.
And and then we'll sort of between each firearm, we will take audience questions. So please keep them coming, everybody.
Feel so vulnerable, exposed to the live stream.
Yeah. Karl's never streamed before.
I'm not a streamer.
Yeah, you are now.
I am a streamer now. I've been streamer conversion. I'm streamer pause now.
All right. Let's move on.
That was a really dark joke.
That was a very dark joke. And it's live, so it cannot be taken back
forever.
So here's our first piece.
Yes.
An MP40.
Mm-hmm.
Karl, why don't you tell us about this piece?
Well, what I'm really curious about is, me being the firearms related channel, how you found this extremely rare piece of German prototype technology.
Yeah.
This is an injection molded polymerized version of the MP40. Probably comes around 1945, right near the end of the war.
Yeah, must be.
The Germans were running out of regular raw materials, and they had used what they have found with their, of course, archaeological expeditions, petroleum, to start making early modern polymers and plastics. And this is an example of that. Now, this is completely injection molded. You can see the seam right here. The Germans were so advanced, they actually had a modern sighting system rail attachment here. This right here is a 1913 Picatinny rail.
Yeah, please. Let's get this nice and close to see.
Everyone should see this.
At this highly advanced German technology, everybody. I'm sorry, just to get the lighting right, Karl, I'm just going to turn the gun this way.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
See, look at that rail, everyone. This is a staggering find.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the Germans, what this also proves is that, of course, the American use of German technology continues unabated up until today. Took us to the moon, made us soft serve, and now we have Picatinny rails on the MP40. Now, one of the things you have to say about this is that it's extremely lightweight. As you can tell, this weighs nothing, which was really helpful and advantageous to the German soldier. They retained some of the weird controls, like this original MP40 folding stock was never that great. I mean, it's kind of weird. But one of the things that comes with those early polymers, which of course we talk about this in the What Was Stardew project, polymers really didn't advance sufficiently so we could do what we do today, is they had to greatly diminish the actual caliber and power of the cartridge. Yeah. So I think this is when the Germans were experimenting with the eye of the Wunderwaffen of the airsoft, the attack and assault and Krieg. And in that regard, this was really meant to only shoot out the eyes of your enemy, which wounds them on the battlefield, requires them to go home for optical surgery.
Yeah.
You have to be very precise. I think they only made like 5 of these, but this is a very rare esoteric project and amazing to see what the Germans were doing so late in the war.
I know, it really is amazing. I mean, it really just brings to mind, when you think Germany in World War II, you think innovation. You think technology.
You think progress.
You think progress.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it's just really amazing that what they were able to come up with. Now, here's my question for you, Karl. May I take this?
Oh,
sure. Oh, God. Oh, wow.
No one's eyes were over there.
Oh, that's fine. I think we're okay. So what would be the feasibility with this particular firearm of taping it to your back, with duct taping it, say, to your back, and then when let's say that like the bad guys have the drop on you and then they tell you to put your hand over your head and they're like laughing at some joke and you're both going and they're just like, now you will die, and then you like pull it out from your back and the bad guy's like, oh shit, and you go like and then just like jump and like that, and then you rappel down the building.
Uh-huh.
The bad guys are chasing you,
Yep.
and then you're like walking down the building like this, going. Yeah. Do you think that this would be an appropriate firearm for something like that?
So that's an interesting plot line that I think should be used in a movie someday. Actually, now that you brought it up.
You know what?
Yep.
You know what? Hit us up, Hollywood.
Yeah, do that. But I would say that out of scale of 1 to 10 on the scale of what you're describing, I think that this gun is a straight up 10.
Oh yeah.
Like this is the one to do that with.
Yeah. Or 11, honestly.
Maybe could go. This one might go to 11.
Yeah. It might.
Pretty amazing piece of time. I can't believe you've acquired this.
I know.
You should really contact the Smithsonian. This belongs in a museum.
This belongs in a museum. It really is just. I mean, this is a priceless piece.
Pretty much.
All right, let's answer some questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Looks like somebody, hopefully with a funny username, sent us $20 here. Molly McAllister. That's not a very funny username,
But it's a good one.
but it's a good one. Thanks for the $20. Oh.
Wait a minute. Where's the question?
That's a good question.
Where's Molly's question? You clicked on it. What happened?
I think she didn't ask a question. I think she just.
Oh, really? Was it just? Oh, that's just generousness.
That's
Thank you
incredibly
so much.
generous. Let's see. Somebody with Sherman as their avatar said, "May you be awesome this season from a son of New France."
Oh,
Well,
that is nice. Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's not nice that they're from New France. You know how I feel about them.
Wait, I have this moment after laughter. Like, ho, 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 ho.
And then let's see. So here we go. Thanks for the $10, dude. Howdy, fellas. Merry Christmas, and wish me luck with my history major starting next month. Fingers crossed, I won't be poor.
I'm sorry to break it
Fingers
to you.
genuinely crossed.
You will be poor.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But here you go.
Yeah. And there's more to life than money.
No, that's actually not joking aside. That's true. Like that's an amazing thing to pursue. It is hard to make lucrative.
Yes, it is. It is.
But,
so thank you for giving me your money. No, it's greatly appreciated.
But the fingers are crossed.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
fingers are crossed. I mean, it's not impossible. It's not impossible.
It is not impossible.
Yeah. And if you have and you should always do something you're passionate about.
What is it, that thing like do what you love and you'll never die a day in your life or something like that? Work a day or work a day, keep the bread away. I don't know.
Work a
something
day,
like
keep
that.
the doctor away. Something like that.
Hmm?
Chris says guns and alcohol on Christmas, just like home.
Yeah. That's a very American tradition.
It is, absolutely. Then here's a good one. When's the next Checkmate Lincolnites?
I don't know.
When is the next Checkmate?
I don't know.
Lincolnites,
That's
Carl?
a question for you.
Yeah, that is a question for me.
I think you said you're working on it.
I did.
Yeah.
Really?
No.
I'm not working on it. I know what it's going to be. I know what the next one's going to be.
Well, that's working on it.
Yeah.
You have the idea. It's here. You're the ideas guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm the ideas guy, and I know what it's going to be about. I actually know what all the Checkmate Lincolnites, the rest of the Checkmate Lincolnites episodes are going to be about. But I'm not telling you guys. You're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And everybody on Reddit who was theorizing about it is wrong. All right.
All of them? Because there's more.
No. There's for sure more. Fat Produce. Hey, man. My Christmas present to myself is a Union officer's kepi. What are your favorite historical hats?
Oh, that's actually interesting.
I mean, we are wearing historical hats.
Sort of.
We were playing with... Yeah. Vaguely
historical hats.
We were playing with a Union kepi
just a little while
a while ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What is my favorite? Do you have a favorite historical hat?
It's highly ahistorical, but I'm very partial to my Witchfinder General hat.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And because I kind of made it with my own bare hands, and sort of like Gene Hackman in Unforgiven building his own house, Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with, and it's going to be a strange answer to this because a lot of people, because I live in the Southwest, well, when I'm not here, I'm going to go with a sombrero. Because when you look at the Old West, you'll see these guys that go out to the West, like Tenderfoot. They get out to Tombstone. They don't know what they're doing. They were a banker, and now they're living in this place, right?
Yeah.
And there literally is a progression where you can see this. You see a guy named George Parsons, who was one of those men, and his diaries are really interesting. But at the beginning, he gets there, he's like a banker with like a bowler cap or whatever.
Yeah.
Like 2 years later, he's got like literally he's got like a rifle, a pistol, leather straps, a poncho, and a sombrero because he's figured that shit out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
totally,
and it's
totally.
that's actually, I think, a very interesting thing. And the sombrero exists for a reason. It is a truly effective piece of equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my next door neighbor here in New Orleans patented a sombrero that could hold whiskey shots.
Oh, see, that's just modernized to get into the
Yeah.
into the current world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has boxes of them in his spare room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Should monetize that stuff.
That's his plan. That's his plan. If you're watching this, Dave, sorry. All right, historical hats are going off. Now you guys can see my
That stuff's hot and heavy.
It is hot and heavy. It is hot and heavy, and it's a hot day today. And here in New Orleans, it's like 80 degrees on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, let's see everybody else. Somebody says,
Yeah, we don't want to miss anyone.
Yeah. There you go.
No, that's true. I love the name too. Bisexual Dennis Prager. That's pretty fantastic.
It's also 100% accurate.
That's actually, I'm sure, well, I don't know that personally, but I would assume that's probably.
I think it's more than likely.
There's a lot of projection going on there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I know you're right. Airsoft is caseless. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, without a freaking doubt. All right, let's say everybody else in here. Oh, that looks like somebody that I might ban. Somebody says, Indy says, I've noticed you use Spyro the Dragon songs in the background of videos. That's alleged. Allegedly, let's just make sure that's included. Are you a fan of the series? I am a huge fan of Spyro the Dragon. Grew up on it. I played the remastered version on Switch and had more fun than a barrel of monkeys on crack.
Do monkeys like crack?
They would. They do.
I think any organism probably likes it.
I think any organism. Yeah, exactly. Oh, look at that profile picture.
Oh, look at that. That's you.
Oh, look, that's me. That's Dick Jet. See, that's a great hat, actually. The Dick Jet hat is a great hat. It's very comfy. Thank you for the $5, Ian. And what else we got? Oh my God, $50. Thanks, dude.
That's pretty amazing.
I mean, that's an incredibly generous.
That's extremely generous.
Yeah, it's incredibly generous donation. Yeah, I don't think you should apologize at all for that unbelievably generous Christmas Eve gift.
Wow.
Oh wow, thank you guys. Oh my God, this is amazing. Look at that. Thank you everyone for joining us. Glory, hallelujah, John Brown, who dat? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
I can see why people are streaming now.
Yeah, exactly.
It appears to work.
Yeah, it does indeed. Yeah, thank you everybody for the amazing donations.
We got a question?
We do. Well, it's a question for you, so I'm thinking maybe we should skip it.
Well, glory, hallelujah to John Brown.
Oh yeah, to John
Absolutely.
Brown and who dat? Yeah, absolutely. When are we gonna make a John Brown video? We need to grow.
That would be a good collab.
That would be
honestly, that's a really good.
Harper's Ferry.
But those two connect so well. The way you do yours, and
Mhm.
we bring in the firearms, and sharps, and all talk about
absolutely. That. Yeah. That would be great.
Features Bibles.
Yeah,
that'd be really good.
Yeah, that would be really.
That's
good.
a good idea. That'd be a fun collab.
Mr. Beat, if you're watching, we'll come for you in Kansas.
We're gonna skip the question for me.
No. So interesting. None of yo biznitch says, question mostly for Carl. As a fellow Arizonian, I have to ask, why set up here? Gun laws?
No, well, I mean, that's a huge advantage for obviously my interest in I came to Arizona well before I was ever going to do InRange. So I didn't know InRange was going to be a thing. Sure. But frankly, Arizona's gun laws made InRange very viable. I have a lot of open desert space that I can actually film on and shoot on. Yeah. That's part of the nature of having federal lands in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, those places. That turned out to be just a lucky coincidence. My reason for Arizona was strictly because I just love the desert and I love Arizona and I love the open space and the I'm going to go ahead and go with the personal freedom that it comes with. Sure. You can there's the history, which is what first drew me there. I was going there and going to see ruins and ghost towns and all this stuff that really was fascinating me well before I ever did range. But then got there and the amount of at least still, or at least the hopefully observable future, there's still open and free land in Arizona that has not yet turned into a strip mall. Yes. And that is something I very much appreciate. Yeah. And I can go outside and see the night sky and have quiet and the beautiful desert, which is amazing. Yeah. Big fan of the author, Edward Abbey.
I'm not sure I know him.
Desert Solitaire. He ran the Utah Arches National Monument. He wrote a whole book about Desert Solitaire. Cool. He landed up living in Tucson. He was very much an environmentalist, had a lot of visions of what the future was going to be, which he was not happy with. Yeah. His book, The Monkey Wrench Gang, was attributed with being the inspiration for some eco-terrorism like the Earth Liberation Front. He was not involved with that, but the book was considered inspiration. Gotcha. But there was a fun quote. Edward Abbey was always that guy that poked the bear. he says, "Oh, I won't plant the bomb, but I'll hold the flashlight." Right? Real interesting guy because he was very much against what was perceived as progress. In fact, one of his quotes was, "This is a paraphrase, but uncontrolled progress is the philosophy of the cancer cell."
Interesting.
And when you think about cities and the way they metastasize,
and
makes a lot of sense.
Stuff. That is interesting. Yeah,
especially in the Southwest. Like here,
well, the sprawl.
You're right. But I mean, here, like New Orleans, they filled in swamps to make urban environments.
Yeah.
But you can only do so much of that.
You hit the river, you hit the lake,
and then you kind of have natural obstructions. Right?
Yeah,
and eventually, you have to just either become more dense and grow up, or don't.
Yeah.
The Southwest doesn't have those restrictions, so it just doesn't go up. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
And that's why Eder Abbey is a really interesting author.
That is interesting. Yeah. And he kind of reminds me, and this is kind of my east of the Mississippi dude version of this, but it kind of reminds me of Benton MacKaye, the founder of the Appalachian Trail, who has a very had a very kind of specific kind of goal for the future, and really kind of he originally envisioned the Appalachian Trail as basically the place where America would kind of go to unwind and enjoy nature, and it'd be this kind of fiercely protected area of not just to kind of hike and and they've got the shelters there, which are very crude, kind of like huts with 3 walls, but he kind of envisioned though that each shelter being like a hostel that served food and
interesting.
So it was like a place where you could almost kind of like live if you wanted to, and where kind of like the community and everything would be provided for you. You could just live in nature and just kind of rely on your fellow man. You had this very utopian vision of everything, and he's been kind of claimed by so many sort of political ideologies and so many
probably ones he wasn't even directly associated with. People misappropriate, not misappropriate, but they take what they want out of it and then use it.
Sure. And sometimes that's valid.
Sometimes that is misappropriation. Sometimes it's valid.
Sometimes it's valid. Sometimes it isn't, or it's mistaken or kind of relies on sort of pseudo historical kind of interpretation. But yeah, he was very much kind of a similar mind of reject urbanization, go back to nature.
Well, that's the funny thing. I'm not even going political here, but when you think of like Teddy Roosevelt and that sort of conservationist movement, the national park system, that was a vision of like, what's interesting because it's that counterintuitive. Well, not even counterintuitive. It's the thing about I need open natural places to enjoy and have be a part of the world, a part of the universe, like a world that is not urbanized, but also to go hunt or whatever, which was of course one of his passions.
Sure.
But if you lose all of your natural space, all of that's gone with it.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in if you are like a gun person, I know we have different conversations about that topic too, but if like that type of thing is a pursuit for you, the preservation of the natural environment is quintessentially like essential to be able to still have that life.
Exactly.
Like, otherwise you don't have it anymore.
So it's just indoor ranges for days,
right? No, but I mean,
or if even that,
but like the Arizona Trail is similar. There are people that start at the bottom and walk the entire state, and it takes a month or whatever it takes, and it's that's a grueling thing.
It's intense. It's intense. All right, let's move on to a couple more, and then we'll move on to our next gun here. No, I think you guys are loving it, right?
I don't know. I ramble a lot.
I think they're loving it.
Still tell us.
Casey, thank you and Merry Christmas.
Very generous.
I hope, incredibly generous. Have you been to the Ren Fair that they got in Arizona?
Yeah, actually, it's fun. Every Ren Fair, I don't know if you've been to many Ren Fairs. Like, if you're like,
been to a few when I was
each one has its own like vibe. Some are more historical focused. I mean, none of them are historical, but some of them are more historically focused. Some of them are more like fairies, dragons, and like Lord of the Rings, right? Which is fine. They all have their own flavor. I've been to the one here in Louisiana, which was actually really fun.
Yeah,
and that one was actually more historically focused, believe it or not, than the Arizona one. Like there was more like HEMA people and doing actual like martial arts and stuff. The one in Arizona is much more on the fantasy side. And they have a permanent encampment with like castles and stages.
Cool.
It's fun. It's fun if you're into that.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, no, I have, and I don't go every year, but I go once in like. One day is enough for me per year, but it's pretty fun.
Okay, cool. Nice. We'll looks like Molly.
There it is.
$20.
Yeah.
Like a dummy ahead, buy and send before typing anything. That's fine. Beep beep. Carl, first impressions of the Bushmaster ATR. Andy, first impressions of Carl's helmet. My first impressions of Carl's helmet were overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I have a very impressive helmet.
Yes, you do.
Yep, absolutely. And it's and you have to polish it regularly.
Yeah. Well, and the head of the helmet.
You always polish the head the best.
Yeah, you always polish the head the best. Yeah. Is that a little hole in there? Anyway,
but it's a very impressive helmet. First of all, let me the Molly has been very generous to InRange in that she donated a Bushmaster ACR to the channel that I haven't done any content with yet.
Yeah.
But I want to say it's amazing that she did that because they're quite
awesome.
rare actually at this point. First impressions are it's heavy, it's not balanced well, but it's well made. So I haven't done anything more than that with it yet, but it is a very interesting firearm. It was there's a history of this thing. There was this whole like Magpul was going to make the next generation rifle, and then it got acquired by Bushmaster, and then they sort of like kludged it up a little bit. And it's like the firearms industry just can't get out of its own way. And they eventually put this on the market, and it kind of fell apart. And this thing became an enigma because they had at least this many of them, and now that's how many there are, unless it gets put into some kind of reproduction or they start remanufacturing more of them. But I would say that it's very interesting. It's very well made, actually. It's high quality, but it is heavy and forward balanced. But there will be more to come about that, Molly, and just have to be patient. I apologize it hasn't happened yet, but it will.
Well, speaking of guns, why don't we move on to our next firearm here? Thank you, everybody. Incredibly generous. Do you see how people like do this for like 5 hours? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. It's really engaging and fun.
It is. Yeah. So here's our next piece. It's a bolt action rifle.
So
what can you tell us about this, Karl?
Well, one of the things that a lot of people don't probably know about the history of New Orleans is that Lee Harvey Oswald actually went to school here.
Yeah.
Down in the quarter.
He absolutely, Homer Plessy. Yeah. Homer Plessy.
Yep. And so if you've ever seen any pictures of him with the newspaper and the rifle, a lot of that's photoshopped. Like, the conspiracy theories about him, of course. There's tons of conspiracies about JFK.
Yeah. I believe them all.
Oh, actually, I think they're all wrong. What's wrong is that this was the actual rifle he did use. This is what's so impressive.
This is the actual.
This is it. You have
it.
Yeah, I know, because this one doesn't have a serial number on it. But the reason it doesn't even have a sighting system. This is how good a shot he was for those well-placed shots that happened at Dealey Plaza. Didn't need a scope. Didn't need irons. And as you can see, well and high quality of manufacture. Right?
Yeah.
You don't even need ammunition. It's just So this is it.
Incredible.
This is the gun, and so everything you've ever heard about JFK and that terrible event in Texas,
that dark day,
all of that, the conspiracies are all wrong.
I see.
Because they all started off with the wrong rifle, and this was it.
Yeah,
I can't believe you have. How do you have so many of these incredibly rare weapons?
You
had
it's
that
just
prototype German, and now you have the weapon used.
Yeah.
By Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, actually, it was interesting because in fact, it was the night that that Trevor Moore got Epsteined. Yes, and this appeared on my.
Are you saying it was the spirit of Trevor Moore?
No, I'm saying that it was Trevor Moore. I think he faked his own death. I think he faked his own death. I'm just putting that. I think that Trevor Moore, famous lover of conspiracy theories, faked his own death.
Wow!
In order to get to the bottom of the JFK assassination.
So he's going to resurface someday.
Yes, he will. He will come back like King Arthur and save Britain. And save stand-up comedy and sketch comedy forever.
Totally.
And actually, I think we all know that Kitty History was a
that was a documentary. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, of course.
Another thing that's interesting about this weapon design is you can see how the loose clearance is on this. So a lot of people get this wrong, and even I've done it from time to time. There's like tolerances are the gaps that are designed into the system when you build it. So when you make a bolt, there's a tolerance of a plus or minus of so many thousandths or whatever. Those are called tolerances. But the actual manufacturing will deviate from those tolerances. You have to be within them. So if you have two parts that are like this tolerance is on the high end and this tolerance is on the high end, what you'll have is a huge clearance. And those are called clearances, which is something we do a lot wrong.
Yeah, actually, let me get show everyone at home a close up of this mechanism. Look at that, everyone.
So that was built with really broad tolerances to have these clearances.
Yeah,
and as we all know from the AKM mud test, this will make it very reliable in dirt and debris because the mud just flows in and just kind of falls out. Right,
Incredible.
That's what we learned. So
Incredible.
This is really quite a system, and I can't believe you have this in your. I didn't know you were such an exquisite collector.
I am. It's just what can I say? That's just my hobby. That's just what I do. I mean, in fact, you could imagine. I think we could dust this for prints, and we'd still find Lee Harvey.
You might. This would have changed everything for the Warren Commission.
Oh yeah, it really would have. I wish they had brought them up, but yeah, Smithsonian. If you're watching, I have this is the very rifle. I think it's pretty clear to see that it is. So I think and just look at the smoothness of this action, right? I'm just gonna. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh shit!
Yeah.
I will say I think the the stock here could be maybe a bit longer. It's a bit of a like. You know,
oh yeah, look at that.
you see, it kind of goes right up to my. I know, I don't have the smallest proboscis in the world, but it does kind of tend to hit my nose.
I
here.
could see you'd want a longer length of pull, but
Yeah,
that obviously didn't change the deadly effectiveness of the weapon on that
on that terrible day.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, should we answer some more questions?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Let's see.
I can see why this could go on forever. It's really fun.
I know it is. It's a ton of fun. Oh my god.
There we go.
People are saying my fandoms are crossing over. Would you consider this, Carl?
I will surprise the audience by saying I know what Stardew Valley is. Yeah,
I'm vaguely aware.
My understanding is that you can have it's essentially like the third generation of Farmville in a way. You have this like little world, and you have
is it like a pay to play type of thing?
I don't know about the monetization part, but I do know that like you can have a pet trout that you can give a diamond ring to. Probably not going to do a Twitch channel. To be honest,
you heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Indy says, "What part of history is your absolute favorite?"
You do go first.
Yeah, okay. I feel like I'm interviewing you, Carl. I don't have an absolute favorite. I tend to gravitate toward American history, but honestly, I think the reason that I gravitate toward American history is because I'm very interested in local history. And as you guys no doubt noticed and pointed out at a few points, I do tend to kind of do videos and really kind of do deep dives about the history of places that I love to be and places where I live or have lived. I find that very interesting. And and I was actually, Carl and I were walking the dogs the other night, and I was telling him about how I would love to do something about the history of my specific neighborhood.
Yeah. So I'll answer this question too. So for me, it's like I don't have a favorite. The favorite's a weird thing because so much of history is kind of dark. What I would say is what I find the most interesting are the things I refer to as the intentionally induced amnesia topics.
Yes.
Things that everyone should know, innately, and even I don't. I'll stumble across stuff. I'm like, huh? How did I not know this? And if I don't know this, who doesn't? How is this left out of the narrative?
Yeah.
To me, the most egregious example of that was the Red Summer of 1919.
Sure.
When I did that episode in Bisbee, and I want to do more about that particular year because there's so much to unpack. The fact that happened, and it was a nationwide lynching movement in multiple metropolitan areas, or not even metropolitan areas, this thing that cost so many lives in this agenda, and it's not even talked about. The fact that it was hundreds of people killed in this thing in 1919 for the ramifications of after World War I of black soldiers coming back and expecting to be treated like humans. The fact that's not in the history book of American history is appalling.
Yeah. And or even just all of Reconstruction.
Right. No, right. But that topic is so big that it literally it intersects almost every large metropolitan city up to and including some places as small as Bisbee. If that's left out of the history book, how many other things aren't in there at all too?
Sure.
If they can leave that out, that's what fascinates me. It's what's been left out of the discussion.
Well, and I think that's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's probably one of the reasons why you kind of initially took an interest in my stuff.
Yeah, it is.
YouTube was like the King Philip's War and the New Orleans history and stuff.
That's how I found you.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Yeah, again, the stuff that I didn't learn this in school.
Yeah, why is this not here?
Probably because it's horribly violent and unbelievably depressing.
And it doesn't lead. Well, it doesn't lead to the answers that I'm going to use. It sounds so conspiratorial, but it doesn't. Over the course of the culture and history, it didn't lead to the answers or where they wanted things to go.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So it's manipulation of the discussion for an end goal, which is sadly something we're still harvesting.
Yeah.
Not to be bummer on Christmas Eve, but we're asking. It's a history question.
They love it.
They
love it when we're bummers.
History questions can be very bummer.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you kind of if you know what you're doing, I think. Merry Christmas, Heath.
Same to you.
Merry Christmas. Let's see what else. I live for your Lincolnites, man. Thank you, dude.
Nice.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Peppermint Yankee with the great profile picture. Once again, what's your take on the dislike button? Mine, negative. I miss it. I just think it was useful.
It's interesting. They worry about stuff like that. I think that there should be the ability, if everything's got to be only positive, that's ridiculous. That's not how things work. That's not real world. And that's the whole, That's silly to me. I don't think that the world should be run that way. And if someone doesn't like content, they can more than happy to hit the button, right?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that YouTube puts an emphasis on something like that,
but
not their incredibly toxic, absolutely uncontrollable, vile comment section that just runs fucking amok, right? And it's just even as a content creator, you can't really. You can.
I mean, there's no way of like truly moderating.
Well, the tools they provide are awful.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not even trying to say about. That's not even about. I'm not talking about trying to silence oppositional conversation.
Yeah, of course.
I'm talking about silencing the vile vitriol.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't worry about that because here's why. Vile vitriol is engagement. Engagement equal money.
Money, exactly.
Like button is engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Engagement equal money.
Mm-hmm.
Dislike button is engagement that don't equal money.
Yeah.
That's the reason for this stuff.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Well, and I think that a more productive change to moving the dislike button would be removing replies to comments.
Oh, that's interesting. You could make a comment, but it doesn't turn into a thread.
Yeah.
That's one of the moderation things that are challenging because you can have a comment that is in opposition to whatever the video is about, and that's fine. That really is fine.
Yeah.
But then the replies go threaded down like 7,000 deep.
Yeah, exactly.
And the stuff
and
that
there's
you
no
can't
practical way.
You can't see what's going on in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where stuff gets really hairy.
Yeah, exactly. And well, and also like people will like, let's say that there's a very popular comment that's got 3,000 upvotes or whatever, but not a whole lot of replies. And people kind of weaponize that and they take advantage of that. And, and then somebody will take the innocuous 3,000, very popular top comment, and then they'll add some fascist conspiracy theories, or something.
Something you don't necessarily want to be propagating on your time.
Yeah,
right.
Precisely.
Like, for example, one of the things
you don't want to be platformed.
People get confused about this. And people should be able to do what they wish to do with content. That's never been my point, as long as it's legal. Right. I'm not talking about for example, hate speech may not be legal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but that's a whole other problem, right? But like that kind of conspiracy stuff where you've got a theory, do that on your dime, not on mine.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an issue of scale as well, but it's another conversation entirely. But like when I see YouTube do something like the dislike button, that tells me where their heart is, and we know where their heart is. Right? Sure. It's not about making a better community.
It's in their wallet.
It's about their wallet. It's everything YouTube does is for that. They're worried about whether or not you have a 30-round magazine in a video that is a legally possessed item in the United States, doing something legitimate and disciplined like a match. They're worried about that.
Yeah.
But you can go on there all day long and you can still find some of the most horrible stuff that is like demonstrably illegal too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that
like
just
inciting violence. Yeah.
Straight up call to violence videos.
Yeah.
And they just sit there all day, no problem, with a like button being smashed, watching the views go up. With ads, of course, intermixed.
Yeah, precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no. I have problems with YouTube.
And I was actually telling this to Karl last night when we were out in the French Quarter exploring, and that I was actually interviewing somebody for a video was probably my next video. I was doing an interview with a local author and who's also been a computer guy for decades. And he basically said that, Alphabet and like Meta, Facebook, it wasn't that they looked up when they were behind the wheel and like saw that they were about to hit somebody and slammed the brakes. It was, 100 yards back, they looked up, saw they were about to hit somebody and went, I'm just going to keep making money, and now that like we're about to hit the person, it's like, oh God, we need to fix all this. Oh my God, and now it's an issue.
It's interesting. So it's like there's I am a podcast consumer, and there's a podcast of Behind the Bastards, which I'm sure some of you out there are familiar with. They did a couple-part series about Zuckerberg.
And here, tell them about that. I'm gonna get another watch.
Yeah,
are you good? You need time?
Oh, I need more of this good. Please.
I'll get you some more good.
Yeah.
So actually, you know what? I thought ahead. I've got one, but I'll get you that Coke.
Okay, cool.
I'll get that. Yeah.
So
I'll
ramble about. I will entertain. I will ramble about Behind the Bastards. There was a 2-part series on there about. I think it was 2 parts. There might be more than one, but there's a 2-part series at least that I'm thinking of about Zuckerberg. And when you find out more about the machinations behind Facebook, how it exists, why it exists, and things like, for example, a quote from I think in 2004 from him in which he says. I'm paraphrasing. I have a t-shirt coming, actually, where Zuckerberg says, you can live immorally but still be legal. Yeah, it's like,
interesting.
Yeah. or I think he says unethically. You can live unethically and still be legal.
I mean,
and that's a quote from 2004. And if you think about Facebook and all social media,
yeah,
they're legal and unethical. That's
that
pretty
about,
much how it works.
Yeah, that about covers it.
So,
that about covers it.
And if you haven't heard Behind the Bastards, I think everyone out there should check it out. I'd love to be on that show, by the way, if you're listening.
Yeah, so let's grab a couple more here, and let's see, everybody. How did the Civil War spawn U.S. gun culture?
Well, that's
it all.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that is an interesting question.
I would say just by the proliferation of firearms.
That makes sense.
Because when you think, I mean, this is just a real hot take, right? So, first of all,
hot take alert. Hot takes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what you think about this, but like, so pre 1860, of course, there were firearms, obviously, but the escalation to war and the continued production throughout the war meant there was a huge amount of weapons after the war, both muskets and then like even rifles and or rifle muskets, and then of course small arms, 1860 Colts, Remington New Armies, all that stuff, and all of that stuff when it was over with, like, well, what do we do with this crap? Like, well, just put it on the market, a lot of it, right? And so like combine that with the expansionism moving west, where you legitimately need a firearm.
I figured that's where you're going.
These guns got like it just really produced the numbers were overwhelming, and the amount of surplus firearms was intense. Yeah, and I think as a result, the accessibility of firearms became much easier to the average person because these are expensive things, and you could buy a surplus thingy for like whatever, probably at a reasonable price. By a lot of standards. And I think that just my hot take would be, I think that that's how it influenced the most.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I mean, I would love to kind of dive deeper into that topic with research materials, with primary sources, but I think that, I mean, that very much rings true.
That's why it's a hot take, right? I mean,
no. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it's, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly, and of course, like the sort of classic, like Old West period, you know, was kind of in the beginning defined by the Civil War. And, you know, I mean, this sort of like had that, you know, sort of in certainly in the mythological sense, you know, sort of we kind of think of the Old West being, you know, 1865 to 1900, you know. But anyway,
I mean, frankly, everyone talks about that, like the Civil War being, of course, you know, it ends in 1865, right? Did it though? As a culture,
oh dear God, no. Oh dear God, no. The Civil War is a two-parter. Appomattox was the start of intermission. Yeah,
and there was the big battles sort of ended. But then when you go out to the West, so much have happened in the Old West. We're still like grudges from that. Right? I mean, Jesse James and Quantrill's Raiders are still doing their thing against the Northern Bake interest, quote unquote, right?
Or I mean, here with Reconstruction. I mean,
sure. Or I don't know, if you don't want a bunch of freed enslaved people to vote, you just go massacre them all.
1866 Mechanics' Home.
Exactly. So, or you go to even Tombstone and the OK Corral. Low base level Democrat and Republican conflict, which still went back to veterans of the Civil War. Like Virgil Earp was a Civil War veteran, as was Old Man Clanton, who was the other side of the it was still going on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh my God! Wow. Somebody sent me some sort of European, I assume. Oh, a Serbian currency. I should know that as a Serb. Wow. Content made me totally change my point of view on the Civil War. Keep up the good work and best regards from Serbia. Gospodi pojmiloj. Yeah, thank you. That's awesome.
That's a great compliment. I mean,
that
to be
is
able to
a great
have
compliment. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Brandon, thank you, bud. Merry Christmas. Both of your guys' work built my confidence to go into a history major. I am so sorry for that. No, pursue your passion, dude. You absolutely should. I wouldn't be here without your videos and passion. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for going out there and making content. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm glad it was inspiring you. And, you know, I mean, I'm good luck with that degree. Okay, should we, when will Andy attend Desert Brutality?
Yeah, when will Andy? Actually, when will the Witchfinder General go to Desert Brutality? That'd be amazing, honestly.
Yes, it would. It would.
I would love that.
We do have kind of a plan for a video to shoot in Arizona, but the initial sort of plan when we first kind of became friends, we were talking, was I sort of was like, and this is a window into how I kind of get a little bit overambitious sometimes. As I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to train for a year with flintlock and tomahawk combat, and I'm going to come out to Desert Brutality, and I'm going to and it's going to be like, oh, this actor, is like, he's not going to be any good, and I'm just going to totally blow everybody away with a flintlock and a tomahawk, and just be like throwing it like Mel Gibson. It's going to be great.
Did we miss one up there?
We did. Well, I saw that one. I went for it. Fat Produce, again, thank you. What World War era bolt action rifle would you suggest for a history not looking for a rifle shooting in the woods?
With
ammo,
that is
plentiful,
and you're looking for a bolt action. I'm assuming you're in the United States. Quite honestly, I mean,
he is.
Okay, I would, for the very nature of plentiful ammo, the days of military surplus ammo are diminishing. You never know when there's going to be someone digging somewhere in a yard in Europe and they're like, holy crap, I just found 5 million rounds of 8mm Mauser. It still happens, right? But and then Russians still have the 54R, and so in that regard you would think of the Moist and Nagant. But there's weird stuff going on with Russian tariffs and stuff, which make that ammunition hard to import. At this point, my best answer for you would be to look into either a Springfield or the P17, because that is chambered in 30-06. And while you're not going to find boatloads of 30-06 surplus, you can still easily acquire 30-06 in the United States because it is still a commercially produced cartridge in fairly large numbers. So I would go with either a Springfield or a P17.
Cool. Well, there you have it, Fat Produce. There you freaking have it. All right. So why don't we move on to our next firearm here? Yeah. So here we have we've had mostly rifles. Now we've got small arms.
A very small version of a single action army. So for those of you all know, the single action army, of course, came out in 1873. And that was chambered originally in the ubiquitous now 45 Colts. A lot of people think 45 Colt. It was actually 45 Colts as the ownership of the 45 Colts. It's neat when you go look at old documentation of 45 Colts. This, however, is smaller than a 45 Colt.
It is quite small.
And it doesn't have a functional loading gate. So you don't load it here.
Where does one load it?
Muzzle loader?
Look a little bit deeper in there, and let's see. Let's just make sure you really kind of get in there.
Oh wow!
Oh. Good thing it wasn't loaded.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah,
well, that could have been really bad.
We're really violating all the safety rules of firearms handling with toys, by the way. But it's got a wagon wheel on there. I'm going to go ahead and say that it's got some kind of maker's mark on it.
Yeah, that wagon wheel. It looks very Western.
It is very Western themed. It's got a lot of embellishment. Engraving on it, which is usually a high value item.
What is this? What is this?
My
look at
God.
that top rake.
It is nice. It's a top rake, and it's easily,
what?
This is a caseless ammunition prototype experimental revolver from. I'm going to give it from the year 1883 or 4. Wow, this is really unusual. The actual sight is the latch. So this is so you think of the Schofield in 1875. This is clearly someone saw the Schofield but decided to make a different variant thereof, which you could use your thumb to open.
That's amazing. Well,
but because it doesn't have an ejector rod because it is caseless ammunition.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get a close up for everyone here at home? Look at this. Look at this mechanism. My God.
That is clearly a prototype. I don't know how you've acquired another very rare, even a design I've never actually seen before. So
I know
the provenance of this is interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. My God, and look at the detailed artwork, the maker's
pretty
mark.
High craftsmanship on that.
Very high craftsmanship. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. Do you think that if in a silent film, people would be running from the theater right now?
Yeah, they would because of course, absolutely, they wouldn't know what was going to happen. Like
you mentioned the Schofield.
Yeah,
and.
Look
at that, Carl.
This is also a prototype, though.
It must be.
Yeah,
it must be.
So this is a top rake. Although the Schofield, this is not a Schofield. This would be like a Russian.
Because
the Russian model, the Schofield was designed to be broken or the latch was to design one-handed with your thumb.
Gotcha.
This would be the Russian model. We open it with 2 hands, and it has an automatic ejector. The reason I'm saying that this is obviously another rare piece. I had no idea that you were such.
It's our friendship deepens.
The original Schofields were entirely blued, but this one is an interesting combination of rust blue and I don't know if this is nickel or chrome.
Very rust.
I'm gonna go
very rust blue.
I'm going to go with chrome on this. And this is also particularly interesting because this one, being a prototype, was designed to actually decelerate your rate of fire. So as you'll see, the hammer spur has been removed, which is so it can't get it's caught on anything during the draw.
Of course.
But what that means is you actually have to open the trap strap to cock the hammer, close it, and fire. And you see how that does that? That is so you can now reload, cock the hammer, close it, and fire again. Now, it's inconsistent because it's a prototype, and this is probably a very old specimen.
It is a very old specimen.
But this is also, the provenance of this is unclear. The Schofield was a close made by Smith & Wesson. I think you should contact the Smith & Wesson company because they probably have some records about this, and this is a very rare piece.
They're definitely watching. They'll contact me.
They probably are watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, another very rare piece, everyone. Would you say, Karl, this is an early form of American gun control?
Oh, in terms of decelerating the rate of fire? I don't know. It might have been, they might have been actually just on the wrong track of trying to make it easily reloadable.
Well, it could have been perhaps a local variant of this firearm, perhaps in a Western town where there were stricter gun control regulations.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the early form of American gun control were the people that the Thin Blue Line guys really love.
Yeah,
people like Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, exactly.
He was an early form of American
gun grabber.
He was a classic gun grabber. If you're really into gun grabbers, Wyatt Earp is chef kiss. You should really love that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know that this was a mechanical purpose for that. I think that there was some kind of just a good idea fairy gone awry.
Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. And everyone, just take a look. Just take a look at that hammer.
I would call that patina, but the hammer work is like pretty amazing.
The hammer work.
It looks like someone
really
tried to weld on it at one point.
Yeah, it does. It almost,
which is interesting because they didn't have welding in that time.
It kind of looks like a toy that someone played with too much and the hammer broke off. But I mean,
that's clearly not the case.
That's clearly not the case. That's
absolutely not
the case. Wonderful. All right. Well, we'll take a few more questions now. Let's see here. Okay. Thanks for the $10, dude. As a history nut with deep Cajun roots in Louisiana, I really appreciate y'all's content. I now live in Colorado. Carl, do you have any interest in the Old West? Do you have in the mining history?
I think he means specifically the
Colorado.
I find it interesting. It's like we all have to I don't know what your thoughts are on this. You kind of have to focus to a certain degree on certain things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now mining history, absolutely. I find mining history fascinating. The technology of mining history, the technology and how that mining history affected not only the health and safety, frequently in the inverse, to the miners and those that were working in the mines, but also how they were able to continuously, increasingly mechanize and enhance the mining in terms of the profits of the company, to the point of strip mining, pit mining, all those things, but also the drilling, etc. I find the mining history very interesting, and the mining history is absolutely tied to Old West history. Tombstone was a mining town. Bisbee was a mining town. Most of the ghost towns that now standing in New Mexico were mining towns. Some were cattle towns, other things are railroad towns, but the mass majority in the West were mining towns. And the mine, therefore, is directly associated with the history of the community, because when the mines flooded and the pump stopped working, that's when that town dies, because it was the heart of the town.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm trying to answer this question is, I'm really focused a lot on Arizona and New Mexico. Really haven't done a lot with Colorado. That's not to say that it's not interesting. It's just like there's so much just there.
Oh yeah,
that you can kind of just go there.
Yeah, and
there's more there, absolutely, but there, right? And you just it's hard.
Well, there's a reason why like a lot of, every dissertation now from historians is something so absurdly specific. Like I have a great book. It's an amazing book, but I have a great book that was clearly somebody's dissertation that was then published, which is about it's about dispelling common misconceptions about recruitment of militia in King Philip's War in Essex County, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Yeah. So a handful of Puritan towns, this person knows the names and the complete biographies of everyone who was recruited to serve in the Massachusetts Plain Militia in Essex County during King Philip's War. And it's just an absurdly small topic. It's a fascinating book. And actually the conclusion that they came to is really interesting. This guy, Kyle Zellner, basically said that it was sort of this long local tradition that the soldiers who fought in King Philip's War on the English side were kind of a very broad representative cross section of the classes and
Interesting.
Of Massachusetts Bay at that time, of kind of in terms of religiosity, church membership, as you probably know from was a big part of Puritan life, and it was seemed to be like a very wide sort of diverse array of those sorts of people. But this guy Kyle Zellner argues very convincingly. There's like no, pretty much everybody who got pressed into service was an outcast. Was on the poorer side.
That truly rings more true, does it
yes,
not?
was not had like trouble with the law beforehand. Was not didn't subscribe to the religious orthodoxy that the fathers of the town subscribed to.
Weird, the people that get pushed into the war, they're socially, economically, marginally challenged.
Yes, exactly.
Which would follow suit with almost every person that gets shot in the middle of a war, right?
Yeah,
with rare exceptions.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But yeah, and there's a great meme about this that's sort of like ancient historian, like Chad, ancient historian, and it's some cartoon of some of Tacitus or whatever saying my cousin saw this in a dream, therefore I will relate it to you, and then the virgin modern historian, which is saying like if we look at the tariff imports and export figures from 1858 to 1859, we can see this pattern. However, we should never generalize based on conclusions. And it's just very oddly specific. But I think it is true that it's kind of how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Matrix Revolution's now playing now in theaters.
You also want to be specialized or generalized. Too.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you are going to be specialized, then that, that sort of goes to infinity, potentially, is that there's always kind of more to learn about any given topic.
The closest example I have of that is not specifically a social history book. It is a gear history book. I have one at home that is the history of the German Stahlhelm, the helmet from World War I through World War II. Mm-hmm. That's not broad at all. It's very specific. It's like the metal helmet. Yeah. And it's literally chapters in which when they change the riveting process. I'm not exaggerating. This is where the rivet moved and when and why. And it is a very specialized, interesting thing. Now, the ramifications of that, which a lot of people like when you look at the not current, but for a long time during the Gulf War, example, the American helmet. Wow, that sure looks like the same design, at least in terms of the aesthetic shape. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Not obviously the materials or anything. It wasn't steel or Kevlar, etc. But there's influence there. So if you wanted to take the helmet from a social, logical, historical perspective, you'd be like, why was the German helmet designed this way? Yeah. And how did it ultimately start to become what we use as the PSGT in the United States, right? Yeah. That's the social element. This book is where's the rivet and why. They don't care about any of the other parts. Sure. And that that's specialization. Yeah. So you can get real deep. Yeah, without a doubt. All right, let's see some other ones here. Apologize if we're behind everybody. I talk a lot. No, I mean, I love it, and I'm sure they are too. And I talk a lot too. Less, not as well as you do, certainly. That's why I need a script. Oh, God, this is somebody talking about the Oswald. Only one shot. There we go. Yep, that's true. And there was one you missed there. There was. Who are your favorite alt history YouTubers? I mean, Alt History Hub is, I think kind of the gold standard. Both of your channels are awesome. Thanks, James. What's your favorite Civil War lever action rifle? Well, there was only one, really. No, it was the 1860 Henry. No. After that, you get to the 1866 Winchester. So during the war, and they weren't officially martially adopted, but there were soldiers that bought them with their own money, or even commanders that bought enough to outfit some of his men with them. Yeah, exactly. And I don't strongly associate lever action with the Civil War. No, but there's a couple instances I just described. Yeah. And there's some real interesting accounts of them using them to great effect. Sure. Mm-hmm. But it was extremely tiny. Yeah. So it would only be the 1860 Henry. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like and you see this a lot with certain kind of Civil War movies. I mean, Good, Bad, and the Ugly is a great example, where or Outlaw Jersey Wales with the Gatling gun, where it's like technically that was there, technically it existed, but the probability that it was in any sort of given situation or in numbers enough to have there's that one time somewhere that something happened. Yeah, right? Precisely. Yeah. Connor says, big fan of you both for a long time. Thank you. Carl, any new Old West vignettes soon? It is a great series. Thank you. I actually talked to you about this earlier. The one I'm working on currently is, and I don't want to give the spicy bits away, but I'm going to be working on, it's coming relatively soon, the Ghost Dance, which was a spiritual indigenous movement that was inappropriately associated by the federal government as insurrection and revolt. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that over our romantic brunch today.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Would you do a video on Civil War on the West? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing that when you get out that way someday, there are some interesting New Mexico more than Arizona, but I mean it did go all the way into pretty far west into Arizona. The stuff in Arizona, they call some of these things battles. No, they were skirmishes.
Yeah.
In New Mexico, there were battles, so that's interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Chris, been a fan for 2 years now. Wow. Oh, you're an early adopter. Witchfinder General is my favorite character. Nice. That's what I like to hear. He's my favorite too. What was his inspiration? Was Solomon Kane one? No, Solomon Kane was not an inspiration. So Witchfinder General is he's a cartoon character, like a lot of the characters on our channel, but he does sort of like represent a lot of the beliefs of witch hunters at the time. And as my last live stream with Justin Sledge, who put it very well, was like witches only existed in the minds of the witch hunters, and that's very much kind of the thing with Witchfinder General, is that it's sort of representing the mind of the witch hunter in a comedic kind of way. So essentially, I mean, most of the Witchfinder General's dialogue is ripped more or less exactly from primary sources from the 17th century, whether witch hunting manuals or religious instruction manuals or books written by Puritans describing their belief systems. And kind of with the what I think, and at the risk of sort of explaining a joke, I think kind of where the humor comes in is the context, right? And sort of the the fact that he's reacting to CNN or or whatever, or a YouTube comment.
You know what,
that
makes it real and palpable.
Yeah,
because when you see that worldview interpolated or placed against modernity,
yeah, exactly,
it lets you understand better what they really were.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. At least I hope so. Okay. Fat Produce favorite video games. Do you play many video games, Carl?
Not that often. Like I'm into VR.
Yeah.
So on the VR side, there's a lot of those, but like my favorite of all time, and it still stands, is System Shock 2, which is old now, but it's an old cyberpunk dystopian, fantastic thing. Cyberpunk, System Shock 2.
Yeah, mine would probably be Rome Total War, but I'm not a huge video game guy. God, there's so many Lee Harvey Oswald ones.
Well, that would explain the magic bullet, because the S-33 can't stabilize a round to save its own self. So, and you fired, and they tumble like 1 foot away from the cart from the muzzle. And of course, the magic bullet theory. Well, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think we might be a little bit behind on these questions, Carl.
Keep going.
So Merry Christmas. Andy, do you have any plans to make a video on something like the Cold Wars? No, I don't. That's not my area of expertise. More vignettes soon, says Dean, as we said. As was answered, yeah. Thank you, everybody, so much for these incredibly generous. Doug sends $18.61. Thanks for the new look on the Civil War. Would you consider a review on of it on Robert E. Lee, on if Robert E. Lee didn't leave his commission? Actually, if you guys haven't already, the best book, in my opinion, written about Lee is Reading the Man, which is by, what's her name? It's from 2008. I don't remember the historian's name off the top of my head. It's called Reading the Man. It's sort of like the subtitle is like Understanding Robert E. Lee Through His Private Letters, or a portrait of Robert E. Lee through his private letters. And it's critical, which I'm sure you guys would be into, but it's not unfair. And it does, and it's certainly not partisan, which is, of course, as we all know or should know, you kind of should avoid that stuff like the plague. But it does. One of the best chapters is basically describing Lee in Arlington, basically agonizing over his decision about whether to take Lincoln up on his offer to lead Union forces, right? And he's and one thing that really brought this home to me, which I didn't realize at the time, but the book pointed out, was in 1860, Robert E. Lee had black hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
His hair literally went gray from 1860 to 1862.
Wow.
Yeah. It went like completely gray. And he had like a mustache and he looked very different. Like he underwent this physical transformation.
Wow.
And like kind of like Lincoln did, I think there's kind of an interesting kind of poetic parallel between that. Oh, that's my hour-long timer.
Well, we can keep going.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. yeah, so that's kind of an
That's
interesting thing.
fascinating.
So
The
like,
amount of stress.
and yeah, of course, kind of where my mind goes is that would be a great short film. Is with Robert E. Lee, not how we're kind of used to seeing him, not as the mythologized version of him, but as kind of like 1860 Robert Lee with kind of a dorky looking little mustache and black hair. It looked remarkably like John Wilkes Booth, actually, and just kind of his general sort of vibe. Basically just agonizing over this decision, and apparently he like stayed up all night, and he was, early in the morning, like called his family into the parlor and was like, "Here's what I'm going to do," and So
wow.
yeah, it's definitely like a really interesting thing. Okay, and
this one's, we just have to read this one.
Yeah, but reading The Man, if you haven't read it, absolutely do it. Here we go. John Brown's body lies a moldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a moldering in the grave. Thank you for the $10, dude. All right.
That's Molly.
Oh, holy shit, Molly.
Oh my gosh.
Molly, Jesus Christ, Molly. Jesus Christ. Molly.
Very generous.
Incredibly generous. Please don't. Please don't.
Yeah, it's very humbling to see things like that.
Yeah. As a resident of a picturesque spot of rural nowhere between two names I'm not going to say, I am personally shamed not to have heard about what happened in Tulsa's Black Wall Street until I started watching your channels. Interesting that we kind of turned you onto that, because I don't think, have you ever done anything?
I haven't done on that topic, but it probably, some of the topics that either of us have touched on could lend itself to finding that out very quickly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's kind of like the seed crystal towards some of that intentionally induced amnesia. Right?
Yeah, and Molly, and it's sort of to your question too. I mean, I think like a lot of people did not know that that massacre had even taken place until that HBO series Watchmen. Kind of.
Yeah, the Watchmen actually did wake up some people at some of these things.
Yeah,
that's pop culture doing a good job in regards to that.
Yeah, for once. Thank you guys, everybody. This is incredibly, wonderfully generous, and I'm just and Theo, what corporation do you think has the worst conduct that you know of? I mean, I have my question, which what I would say, but I'm not, I don't want to reveal that part of myself to these guys. But I mean, do you have a good answer?
Click on it again so I can read it.
Okay. It was, what corporation do you think has the worst conduct?
Oh man, that's so broad.
There's
so many.
There are a lot. I'm
just going to constrain it to modern society.
Yeah.
Because we can go so far back.
East India.
There's so much. I'm sorry, Theo, but I'm just going to go with like today.
Yeah.
And today, I'm going with Facebook. Facebook has done irreparable damage to society and communication through its methods.
I mean, hopefully not irreparable, but significant.
Oh, I don't know. Like maybe with enough time. But which is sad, because as a person that's like comes from hacker culture and love for technology, technology can do so many positive things. I'm not going to say Facebook hasn't done positive things.
Yeah, sure.
It has. But when you look at the negativity that it has done and the things that it has done for its own power, aggregation of information, it goes across the board. It's so extensive. Yeah. All the social media is somewhat culpable. Facebook is bad. Yeah. I'm going with Facebook. Yeah. Yeah. And it's psychopathic in some regards to its approach to data.
Android or iOS?
iOS.
Yeah. Me too. Let's see what we got here. We'll move on to our next our next firearm here in a second. But Indy says, do you like science at all? No,
science is actually something that's corrupted the world. We should go back to a more realistic approach to miasma and the
exactly.
I mean, what has science done for us, really?
Yeah, what
besides
has
like vaccines, clean water, food?
Yeah,
no, science is space.
Absolutely not.
Let's kill that stuff.
Space doesn't exist. Yeah. Let's see. William the Bastard, the Duke of the Normans. You're triggering my innermost Puritan here. With he is of course the original Norman oppressor. Norman usurper. I got some riveted mail. Oh, we're kind of going way back in time here, Carl. Take a few weeks to be finished. I was wondering if either of you gents had any favorite medieval stuff. Medieval event / thing.
Or thing.
Not exactly sure what you're kind of going through there, but do we have, or maybe historical event? Do you have any particular medieval interests, Carl?
I'm gonna have to go. Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something I've really put a lot of effort into.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to disappoint, but like,
No,
like
sure.
we talked
I mean,
about earlier about the things you focus on.
Yeah, of course.
And I really, not really, not
Yeah.
for me. I have to be honest, not so much.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I mean, I definitely have like, I was into the Middle Ages much more when I was younger. That was kind of like an early kind of middle school, sort of early high school historical interest for me. And, but kind of as I've gotten older, I mean, again, I feel like I've been more focused on like local history and just kind of history that's more kind of tactile to my,
now that
my neighborhood, I guess.
Maybe I have some answer. It's like, it's a little bit more personal, but in terms of just like things I'm interested in, audience will know what I mean. Frankly, like a lot of people think and focus on the Crusades in terms of an expansion of theocratical movement, right? But that wasn't only in the Middle East. It went up into Northern Europe. There were the battles between pagans and heathens and Christianity, and then of course that expansionism eventually landed up in the continental Americas and all the things that come with that.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we talk about, for example, and should about the things that were done in that guise here in the United States, but those same things in 1000 AD,
Central and South America.
Oh, of course, fair,
war,
of course. I'm not trying to exclude anyone.
No.
But like I think it's just far enough out that a lot of people forget or don't really think about the fact those same things were done in Europe.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
including Scandinavia.
Yeah. Well, and
Iceland and all those things.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think it's a lot of people kind of forget about the. Like Richard I, for instance, Richard the Lionheart, who I personally have like a big soft spot for, but I think like his, he's a problematic fave for sure. And that guy, like, he's remembered for his war in the Middle East and his war against Saladin and the big air quotes Saracens, basically the Muslim Arabs and, the Egyptian and Syrian Empire of Saladin. But people forget that often that on the event of his coronation, he excluded Jews from attending the ceremony, which set off a pogrom across the whole of England that resulted in thousands of deaths. And those were very much kind of Crusade era and very much justified by the same rhetoric type of stuff. And, it was homegrown type stuff.
I mean, I'm not going to say that that's a simple action, but a relatively simple action on his part by modern standards, we would call that a dog whistle.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the same thing. Is it not?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we talked about the Crusades yesterday, the day before we were hanging out, and I recommended to Karl a great book that I've got on the shelf.
Yeah, really interesting.
Called "The Crusades from Arab Eyes," or "The Crusades from the Arab Perspective" by Ramin Malouf, I think is the guy's name. It's a more kind of popular history. It's not sort of the super rigorous academic stuff, but it's very interesting, and it definitely gives like a very, if you're kind of only used to studying that period from reading the medieval chroniclers, the medieval European chroniclers, that's for sure worth a read because it's a great kind of compilation of a lot of primary sources from Egypt and Syria and Iraq, and certainly took a lot of significance, particularly after 9/11. I mean, I'm sure you guys probably heard of Kingdom of Heaven, the Ridley Scott movie.
I never saw it.
Yeah, that was sort of very emblematic of that kind of post 9/11 sort of revisiting historiographically of the Crusades. In the Ramin Malouf's book, he kind of talks a lot about how he talks about the reactions to the sacking of Jerusalem in 1099, which, infamously, First Crusade came to Jerusalem and just murdered everybody when they took the city, just massacred the entire city, Muslims, Jews, Christians, everybody. And
what are you doing here?
And it was just, and the reaction was, pretty comparable. I lived through 9/11. We both lived through 9/11. It was very kind of comparable to that, just the shock and the horror and the sadness of just this like act of religious extremism and just unnecessary violence and just this kind of force coming from outside to kind of like come into your home and just kind of like fuck you up and just like, hey, fuck you, and then just that how invasive that felt was really kind of I could really kind of empathize with a lot of those people in Baghdad and in Damascus who were kind of going through that, because it very much rang true to my experience, after 9/11. Anyway, when's the next Checkmate Lincolnites? You know what? It's when I get around to it. God damn it. No, I don't know. Hopefully soon. My patrons, if any of you guys are watching it, you know all about this because we've talked about it. But I'm working on a couple really big projects right now. One of which is for the channel. One of which is my movies, The Sudbury Devil, and I'm hoping to get a Checkmate Lincolnites out relatively soon. But I'm kind of doing I've got some kind of long game type of stuff I'm working on right now. And he thought about doing content on a cattle town in Kansas.
I mean, from an Old West perspective, I could see doing a lot of content in that area. I just haven't made it out there.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we?
Sure.
Why don't we hear another gun here? Here's. I heard you guys like the Civil War. Maybe. Here's a Civil War firearm for everybody. This was ubiquitous on every Civil War battlefield. The Lamat revolver. What can you tell us about this gun?
Well, actually, this one I think I'm gonna. Oh
God. Oh, just.
Can you just put that back together for me?
There we go. There we go. It's perfect.
It's pretty close.
That's the way it was. That's the way it was.
All right. So I'm actually going to go down a more like actual path with this.
Okay.
Like so this is actually a nice, on video, a reasonable reproduction of a Lamat in a non-fireable state without that part. Let's see if we can put that back together.
Yeah, I got this in a souvenir shop in Gettysburg 8 years ago.
Yeah, and you can actually that's pretty cool. I have some videos that will be done about the Lamat for firing.
Cool.
Yeah, I haven't. That's happening.
Okay.
I've got a reproduction one, but it's interesting. This is the reason I'm going to go more serious with this. Mm-hmm. The more rare and esoteric the gun, there's like this thing that happens in the community that it must be the best gun there ever was.
Yeah.
Like it's rare and esoteric, and therefore it must have been the good one. Mm-hmm. With very rare exceptions, and there are some, but in rare exceptions, the Lamat being one of them. Mm-hmm. This was rare and expensive.
Yeah.
So it must have been the good one. Yeah. The truth is, a real Lamat sucks. It's huge, unwieldy. Mm-hmm. The hammer to cock it is way too strong. There is no way I can think of, and you'll see this when I do the video about the Lamat, that ostensibly the manual of arms at the time was a single cock with like a Colt or something like that. The spring tension on the Lamat is so strong, I cannot think that they didn't two-hand it because it is so much pressure to get it to cock.
And see, practically, because it was used almost exclusively as like a cavalry, right?
It's like a horse pistol, really.
It's a horse pistol, and it was a I've got a feather in my cap. So effete Confederate officer type of showpiece, right? So, just practically that.
The reason the spring pressure was so strong was so that when it was cocked and you would lower this part of the hammer, you could detonate the blue whistlers, the shotgun cartridge or the shotgun load in the underbarrel shotgun chamber. And it needed the strength to do that because the throw distance between the hammer and the percussion cap was short. Yeah. So it needed much pressure. Mm-hmm. So that means the spring pressure was bad across the board. Yeah. On top of that, it's a big, giant, massive, heavy thing. The loading rod would break off, kind of like your reproduction is doing in real life. That's actually an accurate reproduction. That's what happens.
Yeah. Let's show the people at home. So this is kind of right. So when you fire it, that would just kind of happen.
It really
sort
of it really is. That's really true. And so, in fact, there used to be a little metal spring right here on your. By the way, this exact same thing happens on the real ones. Yeah. So you would just take the loading rod off and yeet it because it was a problem. Yeah. Now I can say that if you were an officer and you did not have any other firearm on you, you didn't have a carbine or whatever, and this is all you got, this gave you one big advantage of a lot of rounds to fire before you had to reload.
Yeah.
So is it the worst thing if you have to do this, but you have more than 6 rounds?
Yeah.
No. But to say the fetishization that happens with the Lamat because it's a big beast that looks really cool, it has a shotgun barrel and multiple. It actually pretty much sucks to use.
Yeah.
So this one I went a little more legit with because it's a good opportunity to skewer some of the mythos that happens in gun community.
Sure.
Rare and expensive and big must be cool. Yeah. And then you shoot it and you're like, wow.
It's like, well, no.
This thing sucks. Exactly. That's kind of what happens.
Well, and I do think that there is a bit of I think the Lamat kind of suffers from a similar thing as Luger derangement syndrome.
A little bit.
Where it's kind of it's the cool bad guy gun.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
know. I agree.
Where it's kind of where you know, and I think people do kind of fetishize it to a fairly unreasonable degree. But yeah, where it's kind of the cool bad guy gun, and you know, in a movie it would be really awesome. But
and then Harris's character used a variant of it in Westworld.
Oh yeah, yes he did.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm surprised Kenneth Branagh's character in Wild Wild West didn't use one of these. That seems perfect for him.
But I just decided to go like that one.
Yeah,
that's actually a reasonable reproduction, a reasonable.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, this is a nice. It's a nice. It just kind of fell apart because, you know, me and my buddy who worked at Gettysburg with me, we got these reproduction guns, and we were.
But the real one does exactly that same thing, so you're not off base with that.
We got these reproduction non-firing replicas at souvenir shops in Gettysburg, and then we would be on the farm we were staying at in Littlestown, Pennsylvania.
Speaking of that, that's interesting.
And we would have gunfights with each other.
Oh, speaking of that's an interesting point. I don't know what the numbers are, so I'm not going to put a number out there. But I bet you, I mean, Gettysburg being that huge epic battle that it was, how many Lamats were actually on the battlefield?
I mean, you know, East Cavalry Field. That's I could see that. I could see that being there. Like, I mean,
but I mean, how many? I mean, when you think of the numbers, it would have been a very tiny.
I could count it on probably two hands.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guns. Yeah, the Lamat wasn't all that common.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, like we said, it's like with the Gatling gun. You know, I mean, if only we had a Gatling gun. It's on Little Round Top. You know, the difference that would have made. All right, should we answer some more questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you doing okay?
I'm doing great.
All right, cool.
As long as we're not running out of time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we don't have like a huge time.
But I do want to make sure that everyone that like donated to do a question that we can get through them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely we'll try our best. There's always.
I don't know how that works. It feels bad if you don't get to them all.
I feel very bad when
being
I don't
being a virgin streamer. I don't want to just like close the thing and be like, oh, but there were people that donated.
Yeah,
that sounds terrible.
I am a Chad streamer, so I can tell.
You can just close the box and be like,
yeah.
Later.
Thank you for the money. No. I mean, I try to get to everybody, but
I guess that's a risk of that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like when it comes to streams, it's like it can very quickly turn into just kind of a pure Q&A, and if you kind of want to do something a little bit else with it, then
so why don't we say don't if you I mean
stop giving me money.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm not trying to say that, but maybe stop because we're gonna have to end at some point.
We are probably gonna have to end at some point, so it might be a good time to stop. I think we are quite a bit behind.
Let's try lightning round some of
yeah, well, let's
I will be less blabby.
Okay,
that was the next one right there.
Yeah, here we go. Samino's Heaven's Gate, thoughts?
I don't know what this is.
Is this a documentary about the cult? William?
I'm sorry, I don't know what that one is.
Yeah, feelings about the Cold War / Battle of Blair Mountain.
Super fascinating. The Wobblies are a very interesting thing, and all the things that culminated for workers' rights movement that continue to today. I would love to do a video about Blair Mountain someday. It is on the list. Everyone asks me about this over and over again, and it's interesting from a many perspectives, and I would like to do that. Yeah. I just haven't got there yet.
Yeah, it's certainly not, as I told somebody else, it's not my area of expertise.
I do plan to do one.
I do have feelings about it, but it's not my area of expertise. Any chance you guys might collab with Cynical Historian? I have collabed with him a few times.
I have not, but I would.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. Love him, dude. Love him. Okay. Lightning round. Favorite obscure history you have yet to cover?
Oh gosh, I just keep finding more.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly.
I want to do more about the Red Summer of 1919. I've done one video about it, which was in Bisbee, but I think it requires a lot more depth.
Yeah. All the best for Glasgow chaps from a wee Tadger.
English, please.
That wasn't English. That wasn't English. You Sassanak. Thanks for the $5. Oh my God. $50. Feliz Navidad from the land Sarah Winchester made famous with her house.
Yeah. I've been there.
So obviously she wasn't haunted by the ghosts of everyone.
She thought she was.
It's
interesting how delusion can drive humanity.
Yeah.
And it's a really sad story because I can't go too far because we're going to lightning round.
We're lightning round.
The house is amazing. She really did have a seance room. She was really instructed by whatever to do the thing and keep expanding the house because she was like, that story is actually true. Like she's not, that's not wrong.
Yeah.
And the house is amazing and weird. And there's literally doors that go to nowhere.
Yeah.
And, but when you look at that, it's just, people go there and it's, I don't know. I find the whole thing sad.
Yeah.
Right? It's super sad because this woman was tortured for the rest of her days.
Totally.
And tortured. I mean, obviously feeling guilty about something is one thing, but she was tortured with delusion.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing.
I mean, it's kind of like it's extreme guilt kind of mixed with mental illness. I mean, that's not a good cocktail.
Yeah, we're all capable of deluding ourselves, but she had
Of course,
a particularly sad version of it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the $50, dude. Oh my God. What old Uncle Moneybags has died, if only. If only I had an old Uncle Moneybags. And now you have enough money to make a satirical historical epic. What history period do you too choose to satirize?
Which one do you go with?
See, I'm not sure I would make a satirical historical epic. If I had a ridiculous amount of money to make a movie, I think I would do something 100% serious. But in terms of satire, I would love to do something that's in ancient Egypt or ancient Sumeria. That's a comedy about sort of the founding of civilization and sort of the founding of corruption. And you have Gilgamesh or some central king character who shows up to a bunch of hunter-gatherers and who just says, this is mine now. It's like, why? I've got magic blood, it's the magic blood, and just kind of play with that concept.
On the non-satirical, I would want to go non-satirical too. What I would love to do is, I've never seen anyone do it, and I would love to do real justice to Tombstone.
Yeah.
Neither movie did it.
Yeah.
Wyatt Earp, better, but not great. Tombstone, fun, totally not historically great.
Yeah.
I would like to do it right.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anyone do it. And that would be the one I would do seriously.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to do satirical, just because I have a bone to pick, because I'm just tired of it, is I would do something making fun of the Stoics.
Oh. I would be interested to hear what
just so it would be fun. Not even if I disagree with any of it. I'm so tired of people going Stoics this and Rome this and you get old. A white guy gets old enough, they don't go to therapy, they become a Stoic. Like, it's just how it works. You become fascinated with ancient Rome. And somehow that's your form of therapy, right? So I would want to do something satirical about ancient Rome.
That would be I mean, I made a whole Blinkist ad about Stoicism and Nero and Seneca.
I'm not even saying that you shouldn't be interested in Stoicism. Don't misinterpret me. I'm saying I understand, and if that's something you're interested in, cool. But it would be fun to poke fun at.
Oh yeah. Marcus Aurelius meditation.
Oh, this one's loaded.
What's the best military uniform in history, in your opinion?
Are we talking about aesthetics?
I mean, you guys know my answer. No.
Let's put this in a bracket. Are we talking aesthetics or function?
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics. Yeah. It's the SS. The uniform's amazing.
It's really good.
It's really awesome. The fascist aesthetic is one of the reasons that they had power.
Yeah.
Their ability to use propaganda and aesthetics is kind of unchallenged.
I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. That's the thing.
But they are good at that.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And all of them, you look at all of it, it's like, holy shit, there's something about that appeals to the primal, you can't even understand what it appeals to. It's dark and deep and hidden. Yeah. And the aesthetics work.
Well, and the
that's
occultism why, too.
But that stuff that it's this. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say with it. Aesthetically, it is the best uniform.
Yeah. Well, what about practically?
Functionally?
Yeah, functionally.
American stuff's pretty good.
Yeah.
We've really been on track better than most.
Yeah.
Functionally, the gear, even in World War II, it was pretty leaps and bounds amongst everybody else.
I was going to say,
and then it continued to be. I mean, there's exceptions. I'm not saying it's the best, but functionally speaking, Americans have. And I'm not saying this from some patriotic perspective. It's just using the gear. Mm-hmm. I'm like, more often than not, when I use American gear, even historical, I'm like, this is quite a bit better than everybody else's junk.
Yeah.
We have exceptions. We did some weird stuff, but a lot of our gear tends to be better.
Yeah, totally. All right,
I can't even
everybody.
see these other comments. I'm curious how crazy it's going.
So any historical war gaming over the board or PC?
I have never been into that.
Yeah, I mean, I made a board game, and I'm actually kind of in the background making another one. But yeah, I mean, it's never been a huge thing, and I've been into the Total War franchise.
I mean, I played Risk.
Yeah, but I'm also just not a huge video game guy.
Well, no board games, he said. But
Oh well, sure. Have you, with your interest, have you read about America's influence on gold fields around the world? I'm not familiar with
California's fighting British soldiers. Eureka! I did not know this.
In Australia.
Thank you. You've opened up. There you go. You've opened up a door of a conversation.
Seems like one of those weird things that is so weird that it would be true.
Oh, I just didn't know about this at all.
Yeah. Well, there was also the Emperor Tiger Star made a really interesting video that I had no conception about. It was that there was in 1867 America sent troops to Korea. And it was like a weird, it was like, it was like some, Tom Cruise Last Samurai type of stuff. It was, it was sort of
There's an interesting
Civil War era soldiers in Korea fighting for some reason.
There's a really
if you're
fun
watching Emperor Tiger Star, I completely forget about the topic of your video. But just that culture clash really stuck with me.
That movie, The Last Samurai. Wow.
Yeah,
I don't want to go too deep into that.
Sure.
It's a fun movie to watch.
It is a fun movie.
And it completely reverses the history backwards in every possible way. It's like making the samurai look good. Like,
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
like, and
instead of the feudal,
this is really
beliefs that they were.
Yeah, this is really like the last samurai, and then of course the military. What's the word? The Tom Cruise's character. What would you call that? The military.
Sort of the
What's the word I'm thinking of?
Well, he was
ambassador, the military.
Or
I can't think of the word.
Trainer,
But the real guy was German, not American.
Yeah.
And
well, it's like exactly, especially at that period, like 1870s.
Which
Why would you hire an American when you could hire a German?
Which is interesting when you think about that, because that's early influence, and then you can kind of go like, was that part of how Japan went the way it did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. But like, this is an instance kind of like the Eastern Front, where you're like, well, these guys suck, and these guys suck. Just give them better weapons, like. Because the Last Samurai has this whole thing where it's like the death of this noble thing. Samurai sucked. And so I'm like,
I mean, it's at that point, it's just destroyed 2,000 years of tradition.
That's what that movie is so fun to watch, and then when you really understand the truth of it, you're like, wow, they really jacked this up. Hard. In my opinion.
Sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's and it was kind of that very much, the samurai aesthetic was of course very important, and the mythos was important.
Oh, well, I mean, like
the fascist Japan and everything.
Talking about uniforms, I mean, there you go.
Oh my God,
samurais are gorgeous.
Actually,
like their stuff is amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
they look insanely cool.
Yeah, and there's a reason George Lucas, commandeered all that stuff.
For
the Empire.
So there's an example of another uniform. Like if you think of a traditional Japanese samurai armor, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful craftsmanship and everything. All right, let's get
another authoritarian though. That's interesting.
Yeah,
they always have the good aesthetics.
Yeah. Often they do. Yeah. In reference to the ghost tents, have you heard of the Glasgow ghost shirt?
I have not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What's your take on? We don't have to answer that, but thank you for the $5.
I think
Yeah. I mean, come on. If the Baltimore plot had to succeed, would Lee have joined the Union? Thank you, hot creamy fart, for your incisive historical question here. No, but I don't know. I'm sorry. We're lightning rounding. Carl. Any plans to talk about topics like Gladio or go forward with more modern vignettes like Katrina? I mean, you did kind of.
DEFCON Goons. Hey, DEFCON Goons. Love you guys.
Here, you handle this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit the head.
Okay.
Be right back, everybody.
Maybe. I mean, there's definitely modern topics that have. It's interesting. There's some that are definitely like I would like to do. And then there's some topics that are just important to me. But I don't think that they fit the channel like they should. Because, I mean, it's like you can only go so far off of your channel's mission before you're like, what are we doing? And like just the other day, I was here and I went and filmed some B-roll for my own interests of Charity Hospital. I'll just give this to you guys since it won't be a video on InRange. Charity Hospital was made in 1938. It was built in 1938 as a low-cost or even zero-cost for some people healthcare facility here in New Orleans for the indigent and poor communities. And it ran up until 2005 when Katrina hit. And it is a daunting structure. It is amazing to look at, currently in a ruined state with like crows flying around and just bizarre to look at. And here's where this gets, there's a documentary about this called Big Charity. And here's where this gets dark and is worth talking about, but isn't really relevant to my channel, is that there was active collusion between government and corporate to not repair Big Charity, because Big Charity, being a place to help the poor and indigent, meant that it was not a profit center, but the opposite, something that consumed money. And so they worked together to make sure that Big Charity was never fixed, or the Charity Hospital was not repaired post-Katrina, even though it was totally possible to repair. And it now sits here still today in its ruined state. And of course, a brand new for-profit hospital has been built in its stead. So that would be an example of a topic that I would love to do a modern vignette about. but it doesn't really relate to any of the other content I've done on the channel. So will there be other modern vignettes? I'm sure there will be. But I just thought I'd give you guys a story of one that's right here that I was thinking about that I'm like, doesn't really fit the channel, but it's certainly one that I'm passionate about.
Good timing.
Perfect timing.
Came back. Yeah, I told him about charity.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sorry we're so behind everybody. I am trying our best here. Nelson, great profile picture. Round on me, thank you guys. Been a fan of mine. Haha. Why is that such a big joke to you, Nelson? For 2 years and one of Carl's for at least 4. Wow.
Thank you.
Nice. Long time fan. Thank you so much. That's incredibly generous. Somebody said, do you like food? No.
No.
The stoned abbot gave me £5, so I'm going to read this in a British accent. Did Lady Godiva ride naked? The earliest written account was made 200 years later by a French monk. Peeping Tom was also a Puritan anti-lust invention.
Do you know? I have no idea.
I have absolutely no idea. No, but
I wouldn't be
thank you.
surprised about Peeping Tom.
Thank you for the £5, and I'm sorry I made fun of it.
That makes sense. Like the Peeping Tom thing sounds like Kellogg's. I mean, it's just like crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
I make cereal so people won't masturbate.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What?
Exactly. Yeah. And now they make cereal to avoid paying people a living wage.
Yes, I'm interested in any corporation topic like that. Don't know when I'll ever get to it, but absolutely.
No.
Like, I mean, yeah, sure.
Molly's our MVP tonight. System Shock 2.
Absolutely.
Nice. What's the worst beer that you've ever drank?
For me, all of it. I'm not a beer drinker.
Yeah. Okay.
We're just going fast because we don't want to not answer a question.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to hit as many as I can. Thank you, dude. Longtime fan of you both. Hope I can try to
ACP underrated.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Nice.
Merry Christmas. For the Battle of New Orleans review. Damn the torpedoes. Battle of New Orleans review with damning the torpedoes. I'm not sure what you're getting at there, good Dan, but thank you.
I do have a video about the Battle of New Orleans on InRange, and I know you do as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's been a topic I've always been meaning to revisit.
Yeah,
it's just never quite because I want to kind of do it justice,
Well, I mean, I tried.
Yeah.
I could do every.
No, I mean, I love your video.
You can redo that over and over again.
Honestly, and yours wasn't just about the battle; it was about the battlefield, which was really.
Yeah, it is actually about the battlefield. I talked about the battle, but quite honestly, that video was what I was more interested in Fazanville than I was the battle. Yeah. So yeah.
All right, everybody. What is your favorite gun from U.S. Civil War? Do you have one?
1853 Enfield.
Nice. What's your favorite holiday movie, Carl?
We talked about this.
We did.
I don't have one. I really don't. And it isn't Die Hard either. I'm gonna go with Aliens because it's what I always go to for
Christmas. For Christmas time.
Oh, what's more Christmassy than fighting xenomorphs on LV 426?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing is, except for this live stream. This live stream is.
This is peak Christmas.
This is peak Christmas. Yeah, honestly, this is a bit of a basic bitch thing, but White Christmas was always
sure.
That was the video. That was the.
I don't really have
movie in our house. Holiday
movie
growing up. Would you ever do a video on the Free State of Jones? Maybe that gets requested a lot. I do have feelings about it. It didn't live up to. It should have been a lot better than it was. Is the long and the short of it. Thank you, autonomous filmmaker. Thank you. That's incredibly generous. Okay, let's see here.
Well, thanks, good. We all need something to make things bearable. I'm glad that to be any part of that, honestly. Like that's great.
Any thoughts on the time capsule being the wrong time capsule in Richmond? Did you hear about that?
No.
It was if I'm recalling this correctly, please don't take my word for, or that my just word for this, everybody, because I think I'm misremembering here. But there was like a Confederate time capsule that was due to be dug up, and it ended up being like, and they just like dug up a bunch of trash or something, or it was like dig this spot in the year 2020, and you will dig up all of our stuff, and it was like horribly disappointing. It was just it was like a beer bottle or something.
Really?
Like either it got dug up at some point.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, or it was just a big, it was a whole thing. It was like, oh my God, this is big
in the beer bottle, You pull out the note and it says it was the tariffs.
Oh my God! No! No!
It's conclusive.
Yeah, it's conclusive now. Yeah. It was the tariffs. Commodore Perry's Black Ships, not my area of expertise.
Yeah, that's not mine either.
No,
I feel bad
no.
if someone puts money in to ask a question. I just don't know.
Exactly. Fan from Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm be honest, I'm not watching this live.
Well,
thank you.
you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, thank
Muhammad
you.
Ali there.
Oh yeah, there you go. Great. I'm not sure.
Pozole, for me, that's a very Southwestern thing. Pozole and menudo are traditional, so like Hispanic, Mexican soups. Menudo is made with tripe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, cool,
I'm a
cool.
pozole man
Nice.
with lots of cilantro because cilantro doesn't taste like soap to me.
Yeah, no, nor to me either.
Some people
my girlfriend's sister cannot fucking handle cilantro.
Oh, I have heard of this.
Yeah.
Thank you for. I'm sorry, you donated more to get the clarification.
Yeah.
The gosher was thought to have been worn at Wounded Knee and semifinals. I heard about that. I don't have thoughts about it beyond that. If that is true, why the hell is it there? That should be with the tribe.
Yeah.
So that's, of course, we have a long history of things being usurped and moved around the world for because it should be in a museum.
Well, and that island in particular tends to aggregate quite a bit.
So I mean, I would think personally, if I was a museum curator and that was there and that was the provenance was real, I would contact the tribe. Yeah. Personally. But that's just ethics at that point. Sure. But that's my thought on that.
If y'all love Civil War history, Missouri has a ton of it here. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's also actually a lot of the folks who the first French settlers of New Orleans also had kind of goings on in Missouri, which I've been reading about recently. A lot of the Bienvilles, the Ibervilles, the Cadillacs, all those guys, they were kind of more Mississippi Valley guys in any case. Thanks, Bird Dog. Any more plans for 40s and 50s, man? Yes. My patrons know all about that. I think we're caught up. Or almost. Andy, will you do a video reconstruction? Thank you, Casey. Yes. I'm sure.
Can you do a video on that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I will do many on and it's we've got all the time in the world, everybody. Unless I get Epsteined. Love both of your works. Been sharing both with my group of fellow Royal Air Force veterans in active duty. Love both. Thank you.
Isn't it amazing the reach that this stuff can have?
Yeah,
it really blows my mind sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we are.
Did we catch up?
I think we are.
I think that was good that we warned people that we were going to have to eventually.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to not answer good questions.
Yeah, I hope we grabbed them all. Actually, that is a bit of an achievement because I think because I don't think I've ever done and I apologize if we did miss anybody, but I don't think I've ever done a live stream where I caught all of them.
I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just another one popped in.
Oh my God.
Just money, but thank you.
Thanks for the $5.
Just money.
Bird Dog.
Thank you, Bird Dog.
Yeah.
What I meant was
no question.
What I meant was what? Yeah. No, that's what I meant.
Bird Dog.
That's all I meant was there wasn't a question.
Yeah, I think it's a little. Oh
no, there's one. See,
he's a little suspicious that Bird Dog has a stone. He's holding a stone in his profile picture.
That's Cole.
It's Cole. Well, he's killing two birds with one stone. The bit
we got a couple more actually, but just popping right now.
Happy ending. The shirt was.
Oh! I did not know this. So
there we go.
You've got me on something I was not aware of. Thank you very much for letting me know. I will. That's really amazing, and I'm glad to hear that was the case.
Yeah, me too.
So my work on
I'm reading you, making you read another one.
So my work on the ghost dance is going to be, of course, about the sociological reasons, what it was, the impact, not necessarily any artifacts associated with. That's why I wasn't aware of the shirt.
Yeah,
but that's really for sure. That's great.
Yeah. And then Chris had to get one more in.
Well, thank you, Chris.
I mean, so did we want to?
Let's do another gun.
Do you want to do another gun?
Let's do it.
Okay.
No more questions. Now we're just going to chit chat for a minute.
We'll do another gun. So here is, I think, probably the most intact, perhaps normal gun that we do have.
This is amazing.
It is the technical term is a Josie Wales gun. And actually, if I could just take this for one moment, Carl. Yeah. So this is this firearm has been in my life for a very long time. And when I was a high schooler, obsessed with Clint Eastwood movies.
I was very impressed with you showing me this.
This is, I taught myself all of the moves and everything. And those long-term viewers will know the road agent spin, something I taught myself. And of course, you know, I love to pretend that I'm drawing on, that I'm drawing on a foe.
That's really, you have put a lot of work into that.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Now, if you're in the theater in 1911, start running now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what's nice about this one. And when you showed me this one, is this one actually, this is a non-firing replica, but it has the proper heft.
It does.
Of a dragoon.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you were to, your spinning talents, of course, do not do this with a loaded
yeah,
gun.
please, for the love of God.
Let me just throw that caveat out there. But like, the heft of this is correct. The balance on this one's right. Some of those other ones, the balance. The Lamat was too. This one has the right balance.
Yeah.
And when you started doing that, I'm like, oh wow, you really legitimately know how to do that. And this would transfer to the real thing because the mass is correct. So I was very impressed.
Yeah. Thank you. You've all heard it. Firearms expert Karl of InRange says that I, Atun-Shei Films, am a natural.
Gun twirling is a legitimately difficult skill.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sure can be. I mean, well, and the road agent spin too is a very, like, you know, that took, you know, months of practice. But the actual kind of moves are quite simple. But yeah, I always thought it was fun. It's one of those useless party tricks that, you know.
It's neat though.
It is very
super
neat.
And you'd be a great extra in a Western.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Which I feel like is all that's you know.
This one also
actually
feels right. That's what's interesting. Some of these non-firing,
Yeah.
This actually feels like a dragoon.
Yeah. Sorry that we didn't come up with a good bit for these last two.
No, I think
these last two are
swirl it a little bit more because
yeah, exactly.
That's all you need.
Here, we'll do some more twirling. I'll do it with my right hand this time. I am actually kind of that ambidextrous.
Can you do two at the same time?
That's a great question. Here, I'm gonna I'll do the cap gun just because the other ones will fall apart. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the rotating spin on both. Obviously,
holy,
very different. Thanks.
That's truly impressive. That's really cool.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, the weight is, you know, significantly different.
You've got that wired.
Yeah. So
in Western movies, that road agent spin is, of course, most clearly demonstrated by Curly Bill Brocious in Tombstone. Fred White. Oh, this is another thing. I'm just gonna rail on that for a second, but since you're doing that, in Tombstone in the movie, Fred White is always portrayed, both in Wyatt Earp and in Tombstone. Fred White, who was the man that was shot by Curly Bill Brocious, and what is now the location of the Birdcage Theater in Tombstone, is always portrayed as this elderly man with like a beard, and he's like stately in his 50s or whatever. He was a young man. Like, I don't know why that happens. And this is in the movies. Always, both of them get this wrong. In Tombstone, they show Curly Bill very deliberately spinning the gun and firing it into his stomach. Very deliberate.
Yeah.
In Wyatt Earp, they make it a little less deliberate, but it still looks like it's pretty much on purpose.
Sure.
What's really funny about this, and this is why these movies just is that no, the cowboys were in that lot and they were just shooting their guns in the air. The narrative turned in they were doing it to intentionally assassinate a peace officer. Whether or not that's true is unclear. But what is clear is that when Fred White went to disarm Curly Bill, he grabbed the gun and yanked it, and it went off. Fred White, actually, before he died, said that he pulled on the gun, causing it to discharge. Wyatt Earp testified later that he saw it and thought that the gun malfunctioned. And there was a general agreement that the gun would fire at half cock, which means there was a malfunction in the gun.
Yeah.
Curly Bill was out of his mind, drunk or whatever he was on. And so it really does look like when Fred White and Wyatt Earp both said it appeared to be a mistake and that the discharge was an accident.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's never put in the movies. They never talk about that. And it's always used as the quintessential moment to show that Curly Bill Brocious and the cowboys were there just for bloodshed.
Yeah.
That is always the moment.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me because the actual records very demonstrably prove that even Wyatt Earp said, no, it was a malfunction of the gun. Yeah. I don't know why they do these things. Why change stuff like that?
Well, I think,
and why make it so deliberate where they show him spin the gun, cock it, and fire it? It's like, this is like, exactly. You're clearly turning this guy. whether he's a good guy or not. I'm not even arguing with that.
Yeah.
But why change that specific thing to make it look so malicious when it may not, when we know it wasn't even, that's not it at all.
I mean, probably just to sort of like engender our sympathies.
It's how you
know what I mean?
Now they're the black hats.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, black hats and white hats type of thing, right? I mean, that's kind of that sort of from kind of like a screenwriting perspective. It's kind of like you need the sort of when the violence is happening, you kind of have to have a clear, or not. You don't have to. In fact, in a lot of the best historical fiction or action or whatever, there is like ambiguity or war movies or whatever. But a lot of those kind of less than super smart and nuanced sort of westerns or historical fiction stories, they have to have the bad guys. They have to have.
And this is why, if I had the budget, I would do this movie about that town. And by the way, I wouldn't do just Earp. I'd do Tombstone because I think it's a fascinating story. Yeah. Earp was like a couple. It was just a small of this thing, and the rest of the people are like, "Can you?" Most of that town was like, "Can you get rid of these people? They're fucking annoying. Like, we just want to get our shit done, right? Like, and they're just shooting each other in the street. This sucks. I just want to go get a drink and like get my mind working. Like, literally, like these are just pests. Like both sides were pests.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, I would love to do this thing where it's like the story, which is really cool. No one's done this, like a Deadwood like episodal thing. And then the Earp thing's like 2 episodes. And like, man, those were annoying fucks. They're glad they're gone. Can we get on with this? Like, that would be really interesting. But to have the stories like include things like the gun fired by malfunction. Stuff that would make it much more great.
Well, and at the risk of just becoming a pure Deadwood ripoff, but that is kind of like the gold standard for Western.
It is, except for the language, right? Like, I don't agree. I mean,
I love the language.
This is an example of where historical. I agree, but this is an example of where historical. That movie, Deadwood, was less fiction than most people think. A lot of that was really true, and I think the language being the way they used, like all the vulgar language. What's interesting about that is that was probably not historically correct.
Yeah, no.
But
definitely not.
But what is interesting is when you think about it, that Deadwood was an entire city built illegally. No one, and therefore, everyone that lived in Deadwood was a criminal. That was a criminal enterprise filled with criminals. So while you can't, like, it's hard to make that palpable when you watch a TV show, but I think letting that vulgarity be there, while it's not historically accurate, is historically accurate in terms of a sense of the community.
Yeah, well, it is.
Like, isn't that interesting?
It isn't.
Like,
absolutely. But it isn't even that specific vulgarity. It's like vulgarity isn't inaccurate. It's that specific vulgarity.
Yeah,
it's like people saying like motherfucker and
that stuff. But
that those are modern.
But it makes it real.
Yeah,
to the person
exactly.
Watching it now.
And if they use sort of old timey minor curses, dad gummit, was highly offensive.
And it would be like, this sounds ridiculous.
It sounds insane. But like it's again, we talked about, we were talking about Last of the Mohicans at our romantic brunch. The Last of the Mohicans has like, it is inaccurate in a lot of ways, but it has that kind of tactile feel, and it really kind of gives you a sense.
But it still leaves you like, when you're done with the movie, you may not know the facts, but you definitely know what it felt like. To be there,
to be on the frontier in upstate New York in the 18 or the 1750s. But like, and I feel like Deadwood is the same way, where it's tactile. You can feel it, you can smell it, you know. And that's what I think is one of the many things that's so brilliant about that show.
But the show, like some of the really like quintessential elements of things that happened there, like the assassination of Wild Bill Hickok, they really nailed it. And Jack McCall and all that was really well done.
Oh man, and that actor Garrett Dillahunt who played Jack McCall.
And they did a great job.
You son of a bitch!
That's exactly what he did. They did a good job with Calamity Jane and all that.
Oh my god, she is amazing.
Yeah, they really did.
God,
and like Tombstone would have similar equivalencies. Like if you could do it right, Calamity Jane was more like, she was more rough and tumble. But like in Tombstone, there was a very more erudite frontierswoman, Nellie Cashman. She's amazing. There hasn't been a documentary or a movie about her alone is astonishing, because the stuff she did was just crazy. And this stuff's just left out of the discussion. And I'm like, because a couple cops and a drunk decided to get in a fight with some cattle rustlers, suddenly all these other people are left out of the discussion. It's really interesting.
That is interesting.
Anyways, I'm ranting.
They love it. They love it. Should we wrap it up?
Probably.
Let's see just real quick.
I don't think there was.
This person's getting banned.
Bye, whoever that was. I didn't even see who it was.
It was something that we don't like. All right. So, people admirably, Mr. Grease. It's Mr. Chain Blue Lightning. Mr. Chain Blue Lightning himself. That's a line from Josie Wales. All right, everybody. So I think, I think we're completely caught up. If we missed donations,
Sorry.
apologize. But thank you anyway so much. It's incredibly generous of you all. I hope this brightened your Christmas Eve. I hope you have a great day tomorrow, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of a 400-part series. Andy and Karl drink beer and play with toy guns.
Or Coke Zero.
Or White Claw.
Or White Claw. Yeah, now that's just part of your house forever.
Second time.
Yeah.
That I've been
you did. You spilled absinthe the other night.
Absinthe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for everyone for being there and being supporters of both my channel and yours.
Or
one or the other. It doesn't that's great. And I also just want to wish everyone out there a happy holiday, whatever their holiday is, because this is the season where there's many holidays.
Yeah, of course.
And of course a new year if this is your new year.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone out there. And hopefully 2022 can upswing a little bit.
I think 2022 is going to be our year.
I think it is. I think it's going to be something different.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Be well. Merry Christmas.